Hello again. This is Bob Boyne, the practice director here at Trident for our financial close solutions practice. And today we're going to focus on auto certification within BlackLine. If you haven't watched the first video in our series, please start there. But assuming you have, one of the things that we're out talking to organizations they're most interested in related to their close process is how BlackLine can help do things more efficient. And so BlackLine's auto certification capability is essentially decision tree-based logic embedded technology that allows decision trees to be executed over your recs to automate reconciliations that would traditionally be done. So we'll typically see organizations get anywhere from 40% to 80% auto certification for their reconciliations. But a question I always get is, what is the detail? Show me some specific examples of those rules and that logic that it's executing so I can start to understand how that would work in the context of my organization. So today we're going to do exactly that, dive into a few rules and show you what this auto certification is all about. And this is a list of those auto certification rules. So basically it's through the use of these different rules that we're achieving that auto certification. Now they all work under the principles of decision tree based logic. You think of it in Excel terms. If you're an accountant who uses Excel, if this then that type logic. So each rule will look at the recs, it'll look at information we might be getting from other systems, and it'll make a decision around if we're going to actually automatically certify this rec this month, rather than routing it to someone for manual approval. So I'll drill into a couple rules here just to explain that decision tree-based logic and talk about some examples that an organization might get. No balance change and no activity is a great example. So this is a rule targeting accounts where you've got a balance in it and that balance is remaining consistent for some period of time. So the rule is basically looking at the accounts and looking for three things to be true. Number one, is the balance the same as last month? Number two, has there been activity in that account? So one of the other things we're taking from your ERP in addition to trial balance information is a flag for activity, basically a true-false statement. And the last thing it's doing is it's looking at the actual reconciliation that your team has prepared in BlackLine in the previous month. And when your team is preparing recs, what you are doing is you're defining when you create supporting items, how long that support is relevant for. So if you take an account like share equity, for example, you might have had a transaction 10 years ago, that balance has remained consistent. Month one in BlackLine, you'd attach your supporting documents, your team would flag it to carry forward. And when that rec then rolls into future periods, the balance is the same and there's no activity, and the support is still there. An example of an account where auto certification will be achieved, and if one of those variables ever changes, it'll be routed to someone for manual approval. Another example, intercompany accounts. So if you've got entities that transact with one another, so entity A has a receivable against entity B, what we can do in BlackLine is define those relationships across accounts and define certification thresholds. And this will work too for accounts you have denominated in different functional currencies. We're bringing your spot rates into BlackLine and BlackLine to do that conversion. And basically we're just ensuring that where balances are meant to offset, they actually do offset. And if they offset below that threshold, again, something that can be, automatically certified. And we can do this at an entity account level. You can even do it at a more granular level. If you have, say, intercompany accounts where you have maybe a trading partner flag in there to identify, what entity it actually offsets with. So the specific way we do it for each organization might be a little different, but if you are an organization that's doing a lot of intercompany transactions, something that is usually very relevant. And lastly is imported items match. Now this is a rule we often see organizations look at as a phase two, as it does tend to have a little more moving parts to it, but it can be quite powerful where used properly. And what this basically means is that we can, BlackLine is a technology agnostic tool. So, I might be using one ERP as my GL, but a bunch of my recs might actually be supported by subsystems. And that'll vary organization to organization. But for some of our clients, a large number of recs are actually just supported by a report that's generated by another tool. So I'll give you an example. One of the other technologies we work with here at Trident is a tool called Anaplan. If you don't know what Anaplan is, it's an FP&A tool, but it can also be used as a modeling tool. And so one of the organizations that I work with uses Anaplan not just for their FP&A budgeting forecasting, but also uses it to determine a liability. And that liability is sort of underpinned by a complex calculation that they're using Anaplan to do and sort of categorized by different products that client sells. And what they've done is they've set up an extract to run from Anaplan to BlackLine to send in those warranty liability provisions as calculated by Anaplan. And what this rule is basically doing is saying if my GL agrees to the model as per Anaplan, automatically certify that. But use cases can be very broad from there. So that's just a couple examples of auto certification and sort of the principles that work. What rules are going to be relevant to which organization is always a little bit dependent, but hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea of how this process works within BlackLine. That's all for now. Thanks.